I see it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Beth Hildenbrand,
Mark
and
SaFranko.
we are on All Booked Up. And tonight's special guest is Mark SaFranko, and I am thrilled to have him. I finally got to meet him in person tonight. I have read his book, and I was fascinated. No Strings, it was called.
No Strings. That's one. Yes.
And, well, you're my first of your many books. And it was intriguing and ingenious. I'm using a lot of I words here.
Thank you very much. I'll
uh,
take it.
Men will love this book, uh, but I'll tell you what. After you get the good part, you're gonna never be able to admit you read the book.
It's been, if you look at some of the reviews on Goodreads, for instance, it's polarizing. Let's say it's been polarizing, which was something of a surprise to me. I will candidly admit that I wrote that novel at a point where I said, I'm going to try to write something for me that's commercial. And it was, in my estimation, supposed to be a straightforward pulp thriller. And so that was the birth of it. And it was actually birthed out of a short story that I'd written. But every time I would go over it, I would say, I think there's a novel in here. And it unfolded as such. So that's how it started, and it was published first in the U.S. by and I preface that because I say that because most of my work, the vast majority of it, is known only in Europe. There's only been a couple of novels published here in the U.S. And the first was Black Coffee Press published it originally, and I can't remember the year, 2012 or 13, and they have gone defunct. And then it was picked up by Thomas and Mercer, who was a big house known for mystery and suspense. And I think they attempted to market it as another Gone Girl because it was in that same time frame, and
ah,
I think they made a misjudgment there. And as interestingly enough, since I have a copy of it here, if you can see that this is the issue, this is the version, the edition that you read.
yes.
It sort of looks, and I think they were consciously doing this. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to capture a female audience, a certain type of female audience. It looks like, I guess it's perhaps for lack of a better word, a woman's novel. Let's say you might think that, I guess, from the cover. I was in favor of a different cover for it, but they insisted on that one, and that may have been a problem. I think because I think it is a man's kind of book in the tradition of like Jim Thompson and James Cain and all of these, sort of hard-boiled writers, but maybe with a new urban spin.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Uh,
So.
I definitely got a more male vibe
Hmm.
from it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I have to ask, though, did you build the plot around the bit of the book that, like I said, intrigued me? The
Hmm.
way it started out, was that in your mind first, or did the story come first and that little part come with it? I don't know how to say this without giving it away.
You're talking about that little ruse at the beginning of the novel.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
it's been a while now, and I can't remember, but I think that was there because I wrote the short story first, and it was there. So it was that. Yeah, it was sort of, it pivoted off of that point, that plot point. So and some critics actually all the critics sort of pointed at that very beginning of the novel as being, I guess, of interest to them. So But yeah, that was in there from the beginning, and I used it as a fulcrum for the rest of what happened. So, and I found that it flowed very easily from that. So,
Yeah, it was terribly intriguing. I mean, I'm sitting there reading this, and I thought, oh my God, this is so ingenious.
mm, mm, interesting,
I
interesting.
mean, how many men would love to come up with this idea?
I don't know. I don't know. But as I said, it's been somewhat polarizing. Um, I think perhaps there are women who are bothered by it. Uh,
Oh,
who,
I'm sure.
and when I've seen some of the eviscerating reviews of it, I think to myself, well, they've never been inside a man's mind. You know, it these things can pass through everyone's mind. I think it's not certainly not something that you probably talk about publicly. Let's say, or but men can get carried away with themselves. Let's say, come
I
up with
think
stuff.
women do too. They just don't want to own it. To,
Of course they do. Yeah, sure.
uh, I was raised by a man. My mom left, and when I was like 12, so
Hmm.
through all those teenage years and all that kind of growing to young womanhood,
Hmm.
I had a man as my
Yeah,
advisor.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I tend to look at things in a more practical way.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm
So
sure it would have colored your entire.
yes, it did. I look at things more practically, more like a man would than a
Hmm.
woman. And where some women get all up in arms about things, I'm more like, oh, come on, you didn't
Yeah,
think that yourself.
right,
You
right.
just don't want to own it. Just
Yeah,
get real.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was great personally.
I
I
agree.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it would be. I thought it'd be that could make an interesting movie.
Oh, most definitely.
And but nothing so far. I actually did write a screenplay for it though, at the
Ooh.
behest of a Hollywood guy who makes commercials and music videos. He's actually done some really high profile stuff, and he was not able to get any, I guess, money behind it. So, but these things can, as you know, as a writer, you notice novels can be picked up like 50, 60, 70 years after they're published. That's a very, very unpredictable thing, the book to the screen. Uh, and then they'll make the same novel, they'll make the same film over and over and over again too. So you don't know. I think it's very unpredictable. That the story may not be over on that one yet. So we'll see. But anyway, yeah, that was one novel actually, and my um, the novel. Actually, my latest one is this novel called Amerigon, and it was published in Germany. My first novel published. This is in German. Um, my first novel published in Germany, and much to my amazement, it was a really sort of it was a critical success. I don't know what the sales numbers are yet, but it was a critical success across the board, which was very surprising for my debut in this language. Um, it's about very, very loosely. It's about violence in America. I think that was lurking in the corners of my mind when I wrote this book. It's kind of a bloodbath that travels from New York to California, and I actually thought of it on Saturday when events happened in your neck of the woods out there.
Yeah.
And it has it definitely has a connection to, it's kind of like maybe like American Psycho, but updated by 30 years. But it's not really the same kind of book. Um, and unfortunately, I can't tell people to just go out and buy it now because it's not in published in the U.S. or in an English speaking country. this has become something of a dilemma for me as a writer because my stuff over the past almost 10 years now, my I've been in the highly unusual situation of having my new work all appear in a language other than it was written. It's appearing in French, Italian, German, like that. This Amerigon, which I was just talking about, it's not been published anywhere else but Germany. So this is a very unusual situation. The Americans, I guess, have some problem with me, but it's there are a lot of reasons for that we won't get sidetracked by. But
Do you do well publishing in other countries? I mean, how does that work
well,
out for you?
France has been my biggest audience. I have, I think, 11 titles out in France altogether, and that country has really put me on the international map. And I have a strong following in France, so that became a place where a lot of my new stuff is coming out in French first. The novel that did just grab this here. The other novel in the U.S., aside from those strings, and this is one that really put me on the map altogether, is Hating Olivia. This was published by Harper Perennial, so it was a very big house. This one's still in print and available, and has been published in Italian, in Italy, in France. It's actually been in a couple of editions already in France. And it's a very different novel from No Strings. It's sort of like a Henry Miller / Bukowski first-person semi-autobiographical novel, and it's one of a series. There have been 5 of those published so far in the UK and France, and now Italy. So, but that's a whole different sort of. It's also a very sort of male-oriented. That series of novels is male-oriented, but the last one. Actually, the last one in that series that's still in print is called Nowhere Near Hollywood. It's the 5th one, featuring this character from Hating Olivia, and this one is still in print. It's in the UK. It was published in the UK, not in the US, but this means you can get it in off Amazon for a reasonable price in the US. So it's been this sort of split, the schizophrenic split between Europe and here for me has been frustrating, let's say, to say the least. So,
it sounds like it.
Yeah, it has been.
I know. I have a hard enough time just keeping track of mine on Amazon. I can imagine back and forth.
Yeah, no, I know. If I ever have to check what's happening, I have to go to Amazon France, Amazon Germany, Amazon Italy, Amazon UK. So, yeah. But the European writer, and I've spent a lot of time in France over the past 15 years, because I go over for promotion for all these books, and the French are obviously very astute readers. They they value literature. I mean, it's a very high, much more so than here, frankly. And so I'm very lucky that I've found that as a home base. And again, in Germany, there's another novel coming out very soon in Germany. That's sort of a noir novel. That one is classified as noir American. So my audience is primarily European, and I'm hoping that one day they figure me out here. And, we'll see what happens.
So, what got you started into writing?
Well, I became when I was late teenager. I came from a very blue collar background where there was not much in terms of the arts, Um,
Hmm.
but when I started reading authors that were from Dostoevsky to Henry Miller, and this was back in the late '60s, very early '70s. Um, I began to hatch this harebrained idea that I might be able to do it too, and I didn't know what I was in for, as most of us don't when we decide to go down this path. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Um, and astonishingly, 50 years later, I'm still doing it or trying to do it. So, but that, yeah, I started. I sometimes, I sometimes thought that coming from this blue collar industrial city where people worked. I mean, it was a whole. Being an artist was something way out there, and it was very appealing. It was like kind of the diametric opposite of what my life was, and
I
that
understand that completely.
that probably made it very appealing. Like if we can't escape to Tahiti, we can escape into this book or this
Yes.
music or whatever it was. And I became sort of hooked on everything. I mean, I fought with urges in every, from, I mean, I worked as an actor for years. I was always writing, but you take these side. I mean, I paint. I still paint when I have some time. I work on music. I'm a musician. I put out a lot of music over the years. So it became an addiction. As Patricia Highsmith once said, I always thought this was amusing. Art is an addiction. That's why there are so many bad artists. I always thought
Have
that
to
was
agree with that.
yes, yeah, it's an addiction. So I think that's true. I wasn't, spared from it. So.
I come from similar backgrounds. I spent my weekends on the family farm where I
Hmm.
grew up. It was all, factory work.
Right, right.
And my mom was a very avid reader, and
Hmm.
she instilled that in me. She came
Hmm.
from Indianapolis. That was a big city.
Right, right,
We
right.
grew up in Podunk, Pennsylvania.
Sure.
I saw that you put that Podunk, Pennsylvania in your book.
Oh,
And
I
and
did.
I thought, oh my God, he uses the same phrase as me. Even
Oh, that's funny. That's
it
funny.
was. I just started chuckling, and
Right, because the one character, the father of the main character. Right.
she had me reading Rod McEwen
Hmm.
and things like that. When I was like 8 and 10.
Right, right.
So yeah, that kind of started my love affair with poetry back then,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Speaking
it.
speaking of really great songwriters, Rod McKuen, he had. I mean, people don't realize that he had like a massive career as a songwriter.
See,
Massive.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, massive. It was actually much bigger than his career as a poet.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. He wrote some really great songs, covered by well, I mean, most famously for him, I think he wrote one of Sinatra's best albums, "A Man Alone." That's his album. Rod McEwen wrote that specifically for Sinatra.
But the things you learn,
Oh
I
yeah,
did not realize
oh
that.
yeah, yeah. Plus, he wrote that great theme for uh, the woman that won the Academy Award for. Oh, I can't. I'm blanking on the name of the film now, but the song was "Gene." I don't know if you remember that. It's a tremendous song. Um, I can't. I'm just drawing a blank on the name of the film, but he wrote that song too. It's a tremendous song. Yeah. But yeah, that Frank Sinatra album is all his.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of great songs on it too. But he wrote hundreds and hundreds of songs for people. So yeah.
Well, you just never know what you're going to learn. You're as bad as David teaching me these little tidbits of things I didn't know I knew.
Yeah, well, you sort of, you dig into these corners, and I guess you always learn something. Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I ever have on TV is history and discovery. If
Mhm.
I'm not learning something, I don't want it on there. I can't stand this silly stuff they have on TV nowadays.
Yeah.
All it is stuff for dummies to sit and giggle at. I don't have time for
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
I like something that can teach me something. Feed my
Absolutely.
brain, please. Feed my brain.
Absolutely. Yep. Um, have we heard from our other person?
I'm not getting nothing.
No. Fascinating.
Oh, that boy's in trouble.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But that's okay. We'll just make this our show and end up doing another one. That's fine.
There we go. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we will. Because I always enjoy doing shows. It's
Right.
my favorite thing. I get to meet all kinds of people. It's lots of fun.
Sure.
So, is there anything you're working on now?
I am. I'm working on a novel right now. Hopefully, novels are, as you probably know. I always liken when I go on book tours and people ask me about the process. I always say, I mean, writing a song is one thing because it's short. Writing a poem is short. Writing a story, all of those things, if they don't work well, you haven't invested much. But when you write a novel, I liken it to you've started out from New York on a raft and you want to get to England, somewhere in England, and you get a few hundred miles out and you sort of go, oh my God, what have I done? Like that's around, I always say that's around page 75.
Yep.
75
Sounds
pages.
right.
Like, what in the world have I done?
Yep.
Right. So, and that's where I think you have to keep paddling. Because if you stop, on the rare occasions when I've stopped, that you're most likely never going back to that novel. I tell people that what you have to do, and correct and tell me if this is your experience, is no matter what, no matter how irrational, no matter how badly plotted, you have to get from point A to Z.
Yep.
When you get to Z, you have to get to Z because then you have something to work with. From A to, you can change everything from in between point A to Z. But if you don't get there, because I notice a lot of people become very frustrated by the writing process, and they kind of they start something and they can't get to point Z. They can't get to the end. And I always tell them that you have to figure out some way to keep going, because a lot of that inner voice, the inner critic too, will start up. What in the world have I done? When you're a few hundred miles across the Atlantic, what the hell did I do? And at that point, you need a leap of faith, I think, to keep going. And you tell yourself, like filmmakers, you'll fix it in editing. It's probably not always the smartest idea, but you have no choice but to fix it in editing. So,
Yep.
That's
I have walked in circles talking to myself.
right.
I have talked to my demon Bob. He's this little head that I have that I talk to. Whatever it takes. Just talk it out and then write it down. Just plow through it, however
Absolutely.
you have to do it.
Yeah. No, that's true. I remember a couple of people talking about the art of writing that just start typing nonsense. Sometimes you can't do better than that. You can't, you just pick something to do. And I think if you just stay with it, something will occur to you. I think those things are, they're temporary. They're frightening for the writer, but they're temporary. I always say too that part of it, that process, is kind of like the easy thing. You have to be in love with that part, with the writing part. You've got to be. There he is. What happened to you?
Technology doesn't like me.
Yeah, I know. I had that problem at the beginning too. But to finish that thought, and we'll pick it up with Dave. Um, you have to be in love with that part of it because the business part will kill you. That's you know what I mean. So if you don't love the act of writing every day, you should figure out something to do. Something else to do. Go fishing. I mean, why torture yourself?
Exactly.
Because it is. I mean, in the end, it's that business part that will kill you. I think. I mean, that's like the dealing with the rejection, for instance. That's the part that's hard. That's where you need the spine of steel. The other thing should be fun, the writing part, or somewhat fun. So anyway, I'm talking too much now. Now it's David's turn to talk.
Well, everyone, David Noone has decided to make his appearance. Hello, hon.
Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm
you hear me?
fine. Yes, we can hear you very well.
You know what?
Good.
You know what? Maybe I should do this, David, to start things off. All right. Why don't we, Dave? We're here. I guess we're here to talk about this novel this album that David and I did some years ago called Demons in the Mirror. There was a collaboration. I can't remember. It's been a while. I can't even remember whose idea it was. The whole collaboration. I can't remember.
I think it was mine initial. I think
it might have been. Yeah.
Because The Balcony appeared on a previous album.
That's right. That was our first thing. Yeah.
So.
But anyway,
we had one song that we just tried out to see if it worked, basically.
That's right.
And then we went into writing an album,
which I was going to try to play if we had time. I don't know what kind of time we have here now because we were a little bit off. But
please play.
When we ended up doing the album together, David suggested they were all collaborations except for one song that he popped over to me called Justine's Waltz. And I think that was near the end of our collaboration, but he sent it over to me. I fell in love with it, did it, and I guess, Beth, you heard it on the album.
I love that one. My favorite.
I could do it. So what I'm doing today is stripping things down to their essence. So, he might have something to say about it at the end. But when I did the song, it felt like mine. Right away. It was a really. But I'll do a little bit of it. In quick stone always asking too many questions, always drinking herself under the table. Always taking her sex for granted. Sweet Justine. Leaflets to strange trend. always looking through the mirror's eye, always blinding with preacher light, always the love of my sick life, sweet Justine, sweet Justine. Sweet, sweet, sweet Justine.
Thank you.
It's a stripped down version.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
When you told me that you were putting accordion on that, it was quite worrying.
Really? That was the Parisian. That was our Parisian influence there.
Yeah.
And the waltz for an accordion, it's like hand in a glove. So.
Oh well, yeah. Piazzolla, wasn't it?
But I like doing that one first because it's an easier one to play. The other ones are more complex.
Because I wrote the music, it's the easier one.
Well, no, it works really well too. So.
And the funny thing is that I still don't know the names of those chords.
That's funny. That's funny. C major 7th, A minor 7th, D minor 7th, E minor 7th.
What are the second two? The last two of the four?
D minor 7th and E minor 7th.
Okay. I'll take this. I'll take it. I'll take your word for it.
So David sent over, lyrics, and it was really kind of a seamless process for me. I mean, I found it pretty easy I would read them over and over, and then they, became the obviously the music started like suggesting itself to me as I was reading the lyrics. And by the time I sat down and was ready to go, those songs were kind of pretty well there. Everything had to be refined, and I go over the songs literally hundreds and hundreds of times before the record, and I also have to, in this case, I had to play all the other instruments too. So it was an undertaking, let's say. But I found it from my end to be freeing in that I was not thinking of lyrics. I was just dealing with the musical end of things. So that was an interesting process, since I never really did, all of my music is me doing everything. So
How long have you two been doing this together?
I can't remember when we met.
I can, but we might lose a whole section of our audience if we go back.
There you go.
Yeah, there are people who probably weren't born at that when we met.
Well, I don't know if it goes back that far. It was that
it's quite scary, actually. It it can seem a bit. But I can tell you, and you probably don't remember this, Mark. I can tell you how we actually. I remember when we first actually started communicating at all,
Right.
which was basically it was. I think I had sent Mark, not knowing him whatsoever, just knowing that he was a novelist, and I'd read Hating Olivia at that point, and I think I just sent him a message saying, "How's the book going?" And I didn't get a response for ages. And so I wasn't really expecting one, so it was just sort of like, oh, yeah. Anyway, but I remember I had done a gig, and I was sitting on, because in those days after a gig, I'd be. See, I'm working for the first for those 90 minutes that everyone else is enjoying. So I would go enjoy myself after the show. So, but which usually led to a pretty much nothing next day.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm sitting basically in the chair in this really tiny apartment I had. Hungover, and I look at Facebook, and there's a message from Mark SaFranko. Oh, the novel's going great. How are you doing? I'm going, I did a gig last night. I'm hungover, and we bonded from that point on.
And I think musically, what happened was you did one of my songs. Jealous.
No. You sent me. That happened later on. We actually ended up speaking all day about the musician's lifestyle, basically, which is that of staying up late and being blurry that day. And I didn't know that you'd actually recorded anything, but basically, you offered to send over some of your songs.
Okay.
And basically, this I got a burnt CD. So we're going back in time. Compilation of Mark's stuff, and I listened to it. I like it, and he sent me. I said, maybe I got in touch again. And I said, I think we can probably incorporate. I can probably incorporate this into into the set that I'm doing. And Mark sent me the chords and all those things, and I worked with them from there, and then I just because I had to. I think because I wanted them to be. I thought, here's a moment where, because I was making them my own anyway. But I thought, this is a guy who's very proficient musically, good sense of melody. Maybe we should try collaborating. And I said, I'll send him the lyrics because I don't have the musical ability that Mark does, technically. But and that's pretty much how it started. We met up. I was in New York
one time.
One time in New York, yeah.
And David was late, but I forgive him for that because
I'm never late.
Being in New York is like, it's an easy place to be late and get stuck by something.
It was also snowing like fuck.
That's right. Yeah. I was just thinking, well, maybe we should one of them, I'll do another one and we could talk about it.
Yeah.
This is one called Room 17, which you probably have heard, and I'll strip it down to its essence here. For some reason, the television just went off. And this was one of the more, I think musically, I really like this one a lot. I should also say, for anyone who checks this album out called Demons in the Mirror, which is on all the streaming platforms, the ones I'm playing here today are the acoustic ones. There's a bunch of like dark rockers on it, let's say. And I'll sidetrack for a second, but those, when we were doing this, when we were putting this together, I was listening to this late Glenn Campbell album called See You There, in which he played all of his like great songs with this really stark band, like electric guitar, which was very different for him, bass and drums. And I marveled at how great the sound. Of course, it's Glenn Campbell. The guy's a great musician. But that's what influenced these rockers, that sound, that stark electric sound. And we ended up using them. Too bad we can't play them here. I mean, we guess we could, but the other ones were acoustic based songs. And this one, I pulled out the 12-string for, which gets weird with tuning, but it's called Room 17. I thought musically this was maybe one of the more ambitious ones that we did, and had some interesting orchestration on it. Yeah.
Well, Mark, would you just when you're singing, lean in just a little bit more?
Okay. All right. Yeah, the balance. We were trying to. Upstairs, lying on the floor, she's counting the days they'd known, where the only words were whispered, golden whispers all night long. And in the morning she'll wake alone in room 17. The poem she spoke, the song she wrote, down straight paper on the floor. Coffee-stained memories, broken promises, dead end dreams, nothing more. And in the evening she'll wait alone in room 17. In room 17 she'll wait. In room 17 she'll wait. In room 17. Morning she'll wait alone in room 17. Her eyes open in the daylight, a blown bowl swinging over her head. Nothing will change, she knows, and if only she were dead. But in room 17 she'll wait. In room 17 she'll wait. In room 17. Room 17 she'll wait. In room 17 she'll wait. In room 17. 17. 17. I love the sound of 12-string guitars. So there's that one. I thought that melody had, it married the lyric well and had a great. I thought it was sophisticated melody. So,
Well, I thought it had a wonderful ethereal quality to it.
yeah.
Which fit very well. I actually remember where Room 17 was.
Uh-huh.
But not that shall not be disclosed.
What was interesting for me was I get the lyrics, and of course I didn't understand exactly always what he had written. So the process of going over and over and over, it's sort of like by osmosis you start to pick up meaning, and then of course you end up putting your own stuff onto the lyric too. So what else do you remember about that, Dave?
Well, just in terms of that approach, I think that's the only way that anyone can, a good singer can sing, is to make it if you're doing someone else's work, to make it autobiographical.
Sure.
And I personally, I always felt, because I thought if I gave you background information for some of these things, and some of them didn't have particular specific things, are like in my, like they weren't necessarily autobiographical, but like I thought I would be burdening you by giving you.
I think it was a good idea that you didn't. Actually.
Yeah,
I think it was a very good idea.
It was just,
yeah.
The hope was, in the end, was that the lyrics would give enough of a message that you would be able to have something to grab hold of.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't too abstract, basically. And I think you always sort of managed that. Like I never felt you got the mood of the song wrong or anything like that. But because like you noticed all the happy ones on there.
The what? I'm sorry.
All those happy ones on there.
Happy ones, yeah.
Yeah, shitloads of those.
You're right.
Yeah. But actually, I'm just talking about. See, I have a feeling Mark is probably feeling a little bit naked, for want of a better word, without his band, without more backing instruments.
Well, the one-man band, that's all me.
Yeah. But the wonderful thing about Mark's stuff is that, about his music, is that it's always, when you strip it down,
I agree completely.
the chords, it's there.
Yeah. I think that when you strip a song down to its essence, you get a feeling for whether the song is good or not. Yeah. I mean, when I hear, I won't mention names, but when you hear a lot of contemporary big hits, you sit there and you say to yourself, I can't ever imagine anybody playing this on the piano or doing it like 40 or 50 years from now. And these are monstrous hits.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
You know, like there's nothing there. But you know, that's not the world we live in, though, I guess.
Well, like I'm gonna just you haven't heard this, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
A new one?
This is basically this is a song that Mark wrote, and if you go and listen to Mark's version, it doesn't sound.
It's completely different. And in fact, Beth, this is actually the first thing that ever got done musically between us. Him doing songs.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Basically, so he sent me the guitar chords, and I sort of went, and I couldn't get my way around it properly.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over to the piano and I went, okay, we'll try it on that. So and it goes something like this. The fuck is the world falling down?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like something's collapsing.
Oh, everything's fine. Dog.
Okay.
Would go the opening of a phone. You could. You're no cliche. You're no joke. You're pathetic. Your need for a scene. Seen you dancing around with the beautiful and the obscene. And I know you're the world's oldest hipster. That phony needle dangling out of your arm. But to me, you'll always be nothing but a fake on a bright, shining morn. I never got the call. I'm just jealous. That's all. And I thank you for all those times you tried to help me. Though somehow that just never quite worked out. And I still don't know just how that is. When you were the one who held all the cloud. And I hope you get what you came for. And I hope you get what you need. And I hope everybody falls at your feet. And you bring the whole world down to its fucking knees. I never got the call. I'm just jealous. That's all. But me.
Nice piano work. The
Oh
the
my goodness.
that when he's saying that doesn't that version is a completely different thing. It's a hard rocker, the actual record version of it. Very hard guitar based rocker. So he does something very different with it. So.
But I think that's what was like. I've always found that wonderful about your stuff is that it lends itself to alternate arrangements.
See, I take that as a great compliment.
Oh, I think it's intended as that.
I appreciate that, yeah, because I think that's what a decent song, you should be able to get mileage out of it.
Right.
So, I mean, all the collaborations that David and I did together, I intended that other people could do them. Obviously, that was the intention, that I would make them sort of universally accessible and make sure the chord progressions and melodies were good, and that other people could do them. So.
Well, you have certainly accomplished that. That was amazing.
So we're. You want to hear "Wish" or "The Balcony"?
Well, I think.
Or have I played enough?
No, I think we're gonna. I have to. Well, you see, The Balcony is an interesting one, because The Balcony is
the toughest one to play.
Oh, fuck off! You're gonna do it, right?
I'll do it. Yeah,
you're gonna do it, or I'm gonna have to do it, and
it's got tricky guitar work. But
why don't you take us out with the hardest one then?
Yeah, exactly.
That's The Balcony.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you like "Wish" though. You mentioned that one.
Oh well. By the way, did Mark? Hold on. Did Mark tell you about what happened to him in France?
No.
Well, there's a song on the album called "Word to the Wise."
Oh.
And
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read it. It's basically just like paranoia in a can. Mm-hmm. The refrain is never trust someone, and it goes from and I remember it was one of those strange ones that just sort of happened. I had the lyric written before we wrote it down, and Mark recorded it, and then you tell the rest of the story.
Well, no, it's I was the artist in residence at this university in France, and I did some musical events, and these kids were doing the song. So it was kind of an unusual. These French kids in high school were like singing. Yeah, it was it was a surreal experience. But anyway,
but the balcony is where it all sort of began. And
this was the first one we did. This is the first one that was actually done. Yeah,
it's because like we're intending on getting going to starting a new album soon enough. I'm just working on it.
Yay!
So hopefully we might be able to, you might have us back and we can plug it a bit.
There you go.
That would be awesome.
The Balcony, by the way, this song did get radio play on an internet radio station called
yeah.
What was the name of that station? That was a while ago. It played for quite some time in rotation.
Oh, did it? I didn't know.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. It was Global. It was called Global Radio. I don't know if it still exists. It was based in Atlanta, and they put it into rotation. So,
yeah, and it's I can give you the background to this, a bit of the background to this, I can tell you what the balcony itself was. And like it's one of those really happy songs that I'm fond of writing. And but the balcony itself, there was a balcony, and you will hear it. And it was the balcony in the psychiatric hospital in Dublin. It was the smoking balcony. Because they decided they were getting rid of the fucking smoking rooms and put us out on balconies.
Interesting. I never knew that.
And the balcony, you could look out onto the Guinness storehouse, which is the Guinness brewery, and the River Liffey.
Interesting.
From this hospital, and that's in the lyrics.
It is in the lyric. I see. You know, it's funny because you never told me anything about it, and I saw it as this like really deep love song. So
it is like it's
and it is, yeah,
because she's not there.
Right.
Yep. And it actually it has a line in it that I'm quite proud of, which is my eyes filmed by reverie.
Oh yeah, that's a great line. I always thought that was a brilliantly written line.
Yeah, because we've all had filled.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought filmed. I thought,
right. Absolutely.
I'm fond of that.
There's a lot of good lines in it. There's a lot of good lines.
Anyway, so I think because I know I came on late, I see that you've been. I don't know what the hell.
Are we up against it, Beth? How are we doing?
What's the story?
We should. Let's do it.
All right.
Oh, well, let's thank for having us on, Beth.
Well, of course.
Well, at least I get to play. I got to play what? This is the fourth. I had 5 or 6 ready. At least we'll get this one in. But this has got some tricky stuff in it. But you know,
you don't have to play the solo.
I'm going to. It's part of it. I stand on the balcony, my eyes filled by reverie. When I look back on how your eyes met mine, and oh, your eyes were mine, how your tongue passed my lips like wine. That's how I think. I stand on the balcony, the river and the brewery. Naked as I dreamed of how you danced in my arms, how you stained my arms, how your thighs became my shrine. That's how I think. And now the curtains you cast, like a dream from a haunted past, it always seems to bring you back. It always brings you back. So let this wine flow through my veins. I wanna drop the wild horse's reins. That's why I think it's the only way I can think of you. I stand on the balcony, my eyes filled by reverie. When I look back on how your eyes met mine, and oh, your eyes were mine, how your tongue has my lips like wine. That's how I think of. That's a tricky song to play.
That was fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Oh, it was great to have you. You need to put the link where everybody can hear these songs on my Facebook page
Okay.
so they can check it out.
All right.
And definitely we have to have you guys back when you have the new material out.
Yes, we don't know when that will be, but we hope one of these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll pick up. You'll put this link on your page. Is that what happens?
I take this and I put it onto the YouTube channel,
Okay. All right.
and then I'll send you the link for that.
Okay. Great.
It'll be a few days because my son does it and he's at his brother's, and yeah, I don't know how to do that, so I have to wait for him to come home.
So, David, do you have any final words? Putting you on the spot.
Keep a good head and always carry a light bulb.
There you go. There you go. That's good. That's good.
Okay. Well, thank you both for coming on.
That's where that there are about 5 people in the world who have just gotten that joke. But anyway.
I heard it. I will leave you with this as a final. This I thought was very funny today. I was, you know how you waste endless amounts of time on Instagram. I was thumbing through something today, and this woman runs into the living room, and she goes, "Honey," to her husband. She goes, "Honey, pack your bags. I just won the lottery." And he says, "Oh, what should I pack?" And she goes, "I don't care. Pack whatever you can. Just get out of here." If anybody gets that, I thought it was funny. Just get out of here. Pack whatever you want. Just get out of here.
It's get the fuck out of here. That's
I just thought the juxtaposition when I just won the lottery was great.
well, it's see that no, I'm gonna stop because I could go on. Unfortunately, I'll there is. No, fuck it. I'm telling the joke.
So, Beth, this goes back to what we were talking about in No Strings, what people think and don't say.
Uh-huh.
That's where that joke comes. Yeah, is related to.
Well, it's like Mark actually was the one. I got this one from Mark, which was one time. Well, when my wife left me, I just said fuck it, and I went, bought a Porsche, bought an electric guitar, got in a bunch of hookers. Fuck, was she pissed when she got back.
That's a good one. That's a good one. There are a lot of good ones like that. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, on that high classy
note,
note,
yes.
I managed to,
On that note,
yeah.
Okay, here, I'll give you one of my jokes. I tell the dumbest joke. What time is it when a cow sits on the fence? Time to get a new fence. Okay, yeah, these are my kind of jokes.
no, that's a good one. That's a good one.
This is what happens when you spend too many years raising kids.
And it's
You tell silly cow jokes.
I always say to my wife when I come up with stuff like that, I say, I've been sitting in the house too long. You know?
Yep, that's it exactly.
That sums it up. Seriously. So, all right, guys.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We will definitely do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for having us.
You guys were just a lot of fun and some great music and a great time.
Nobody drank. I think you drank, right?
Well,
I drank.
Oh, you drank. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was the only one that did.
I got Mark drinking Guinness when I met him in New York, which isn't real Guinness in New York.
That's it.
Nah, I drink my Budweiser. What can I say?
Yes.
Small town girl.
There you go. All right.
Take care, guys.
All right, guys.
Love you.
Good seeing everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm.